Press play. A sky of planets hangs low over Paris. The Grand Palais is a dark sea of glass, and beneath it, the runway mirrors everything. Orb, colour, pulse. In that reflection, a new Chanel begins to breathe. Matthieu Blazy's debut doesn't explode, it orbits. It draws you in slowly, the way the tide tugs at your ankles. Quiet, inevitable. Tonight, we're not chasing spectacle, we're tracing a language. The set said it first. Great glowing planets drifted above the runway, a celestial nod to Chanel's long love of world building. Yes, we remember rockets and grand illusions, but Blazy turns the volume from shout to hum. He lets wonder become atmosphere so the eye returns to the garment. The message lands, same galaxy, new orbit. And then the clothes arrive, speaking softly but with absolute clarity. As a whole, the collection moves like breath. Silhouettes don't cling or constrict, they float, they pool, they open space around the body. Skirts skim the knee or stream at the ankle, catching air in bell hems and liquid bias. Jackets are eased off the shoulder, cropped high or cut short in the torso to lengthen the stride. Nothing is stiff, everything has give. You feel the permission to live in it. Tweed, the eternal sentence of Chanel, is rewritten line by line. Some weaves are loosened into open grids that let light pass through. Others are dense and grainy, almost mineral. Fringes are not theatrics, but a pulse at the edge, a micro-movement that animates every step. There are tweeds that behave like knits and knits that pretend to be tweed, proof of hands at work. The ateliers, those miraculous métiers d'art, are everywhere here, not in loud gestures but in discipline. The way a seam sits, the way piping traces a curve, the exact softness of a shoulder you only notice in profile. Colour is the collection's oxygen. Chanel's first language, black and white, anchors the opening bars. Then come mineral tones that feel pulled from those planets above. Straw gold, burgundy, planet red, sea mint, night violet. Nothing feels sugary. Even the brights have weight, as if filtered through shadow. Satin meets matte tweed. Brushed surfaces graze crisp shirting. Leather piping outlines a hem like a hand-drawn thought. You watch the play of shine and grain and suddenly realize drama has moved from narrative to texture. It's not, look at me, it's come closer. Ornament arrives as memory, not costume. Pearls fall in long wandering ropes, sometimes tangled like constellations, sometimes single and declarative. Camellias reappear at cuffs and hips, talismans more than trim. Feathers don't scream, they sigh, planted at hems, flaring in clouded skirts, lifting the eye without floating away. There are cosmically round minaudières and gently structured day bags, objects that belong to a life, not a stage. And the shoes, the two-tone logic that Coco designed to lighten the foot and lengthen the leg, carry everything with serene inevitability. They look like they've known you for years. Read the casting and pacing and you hear the thesis. The beat is unhurried. The runway's mirror makes each step echo against the sky, turning movement into call and response. You don't get the high of a stunt, you get a steadier pleasure, the recognition of clothes that hold. The final embrace between designer and model lands not as theatre but as a vow. This is the work, and this is what it's for. Psychologically, the shift is profound. For seasons we've been trained to crave the jolt, the meme, the stunt, the shock. Blazy flips the circuitry. He gives desire a slower metabolism, hand, eye, wear, keep. The collection reinstates intimacy as luxury. It asks you to think in hours and years, not in headlines. That's why so much feels both refined and reachable. There's couture attention applied to weekday tempo. We are invited not to perform Chanel, but to inhabit it. Across the show, 3 historical currents meet and braid. There is Gabrielle's radical pragmatism, clothes that free the body to move, pockets that actually hold a life, the two-tone shoe as an instrument rather than an ornament. There is Carl's myth-making, worlds built under glass, wit that could be seen from the back row. And now there is Blazy's sovereignty of material, the belief that the most modern thing you can do is make something exquisitely and then let it speak at room volume. Keep the codes, lower the noise, let construction carry the drama. You see it in the way day and evening refuse to be enemies. Satin tees are cut with the tenderness of lingerie but worn with the ease of a sweatshirt. Suiting arrives softened and cropped, freeing the waist and unlocking the stride. The tweed suit is not a suit of armor, it's a suit of air. Shears don't posture, they suggest. Embroidery doesn't shout, it flickers like city light on water. Even the fiercer moments, Plumes caught in a gust, sequins scattering like stars, stay tethered to the body by good sense. A strap that sits exactly where it should, a hem that knows how to turn a corner, a sleeve that pushes up and stays. As a whole, the collection also adjusts the social temperature of Chanel. It's still glamorous, undeniably, irresistibly, but the glamour here isn't a fireworks finale. It's a low, constant glow. You can picture these pieces crossing a day, a rehearsal, a lunch, an opening, a quiet night walk when Paris smells like rain. This is not a billboard mood, it's a bookshelf mood. You don't have to announce that you're wearing Chanel, you let the making announce you. And yes, this is a change. It doesn't negate what came before, it chooses a different register. Where prior eras exercised scale and speed, this one prizes closeness, how a seam feels when you sit, how a fabric moves when you breathe, how a memory is made when you wear something again and again. It's a return to a certain Chanel common sense, usefulness as seduction, beauty as function's accomplice. If you want the macro story in one sentence, it's this. Chanel didn't try to leave Earth tonight, it redrew gravity. Those planets weren't a promise of escape. They were a reminder that orbits are relationships, past to future, hand to material, house to wearer. Blazy's debut honors the house by refusing to impersonate it. He doesn't cosplay Coco or compete with Carl. He listens to them and answers in his own meter. And that's why the show lingers after the music stops. The images are spectacular, but it's the sensation that haunts you. The glide of satin against bone, the brush of tweed on the wrist, the small rebellion of a piping line that looks like a sketch left in on purpose. You feel seen, not staged. You feel dressed, not decorated. If that hum found you, if the camellias made you softer, if the feathers made you lighter, if the tweed made your hand want to reach through the screen, stay with us. Share this with someone who still believes in craft. Talk to us in the comments. And come play in the details, the close-ups, the post-show notes on Instagram at GTWJMag. Tonight, Chanel didn't shout. It sang, low, measured, close to the skin. And under a sky of planets, a house remembered how to move. I'm Ju, and this is GTWJ, Girl Talk with Ju, where we read fashion like poetry and listen to clothes the way you listen to a favorite song. If you live for texture, for the why beneath the wow, come find us on Instagram at GTWJMag. Let's turn the camera a few degrees and look again, differently. From a pattern cutter's eye, the collection resets Chanel's proportions without breaking its grammar. Shortened jackets lift the ribcage and release the waist. Longer skirts find momentum in bias and bell hems rather than splits and shock. Darts are not hidden, they're honored. Tiny architectural decisions that make the shoulder red soft while the line stays exact. Piping is used like ink to underline a thought. A curved seam becomes legible, almost calligraphic. You feel the atelier's hand not as ornament, but as punctuation. That's the discipline Blazy brings. The cut does the talking. From the fabric bench, tweed is treated as a living fibre, not a museum swatch. Looser grids breathe, dense basket weaves keep time, fringes at cuffs and hems are like metronomes for the eye. Satin isn't a finale trick, it's a day fabric made noble, T-silhouettes in duchess and silk that hold their shape but never glare. Knit techniques mimic buckle and vice versa, collapsing categories in that quiet way the house has always done at its smartest. The thrill here isn't novelty, it's calibration. Every surface meets its counter-surface, matte against shine, grain against gloss. From the archive shelf, 3 Chanel eras converse on the runway. Gabrielle's pragmatism returns in pockets, unbossy collars, and the freedom to sit, walk, hail a cab. Carl's myth-making is acknowledged in the world under glass. The planets as gentle descendants of the rocket and supermarket days, but the scale now serves concentration, not distraction. And the new chapter, Blazy's, insists that meaning sits in materials. The camellia isn't a logo, it's a pressure point. The two-tone shoe is not nostalgia, it's a proportion tool. The suit is not armor, it's airflow. From the wearer's body, everything asks, how will you live in me? Skirts skim rather than cling, jackets invite the roll of a sleeve, shears sit where the skin feels strongest, shoulders, spine, ankle, so the exposure reads persuasive, not pleading. Embellishment stays close to movement zones, feathers at the hem lift with stride, sequins that glimmer only when you turn. It's clothing that anticipates a day, office light, metro draft, doorways, dinner. The pleasure is cumulative. you keep noticing. From the jewelry tray, ropes of pearls and comet star piercings trace lines the tailoring begins. Sautoirs break the vertical the way piping frames the horizontal. Both are drawing tools. Camellia clusters gather at cuffs like small applauses. You see Goussens, Desjeux, Massaro, Le Marais, Lesage in spirit. Métier d'art virtuosity that knows when to whisper. It's not logo speak, it's material literacy. Even the small minaudières feel like orbits in the hand, round, held, personal. From a cultural lens, after years of sprinting after clips and headlines, this show dignifies attention span. It argues that luxury is not louder, it's longer. The planets overhead are not escape pods, they're a reminder that gravity can be designed. Clothes fall differently when cut for reality. That shift from blast off to orbit recenters the wearer. It's psychologically disarming. You exhale, then you lean in. From retail floors to real closets, editors and buyers will have easy stories to tell because the pieces tell on themselves. Precise blazers, softened skirt suits, satin tops that behave, knits with structure, skirts with a reason to move. Red carpet has its answers, plume, liquid, sparkle, but the heart of this debut is day elegance. Expect stylists to pair the open grid tweeds with bare arms and austere pumps. Expect clients to discover the inside of a hem and smile. That's how loyalty is built at a house like this, through the hidden arguments that only the owner hears. From a sound engineer's metaphor, Carl worked in surround sound, subwoofers shaking the nave, a hook you could hum from the street. Blazy mixes for headphones. The frequencies are precise, the bass is tight. The track expands when you listen alone. Neither is better. This is simply a different mastering of Chanel, one optimized for intimacy, for replay. From house codes reinterpreted, black and white remains the mother tongue, but now white sometimes carries the weight. Black takes the breath. Burgundy and straw gold arrive like vintage photographs left in the sun, their warmth tempered by graphite and night sea blue. Lines of contrast tape behave like hand-drawn borders around memory. Sheer doesn't shock, it annotates. Even the most ornate featherwork reads as motion study, not plume parade. From the atelier's ethics, nothing looks rushed. You can feel the time, bound edges, felled seams, linings that don't fight, gussets that allow ordinary gestures. This is sustainability by longevity rather than manifesto. When finish is this considered, the piece asks to be repaired, not replaced. Chanel at its best has always been a keeper brand. This is a keeper collection. From identity, there's no cosplay of Coco, no attempt to impersonate Carl. The homage is structural. You sense Coco's insistence on freedom in the negative space around the body. You sense Carl's gift for staging in the cosmology above. You hear Blazy's voice in the materials and in the refusal to over-explain. That synthesis is the point. A house is not a museum. It's a conversation with its dead that feeds the living. From movement, watch the hips. So many skirts begin speaking only when the model is 3 steps in. Bias loosening, bell catching air, fringe keeping tempo. Sleeves invite a roll. Collars sit away from the neck, creating a small moat of ease. Heels aren't weapons, they're levers. The human is the protagonist. The garment is the camera that follows. From emotion, the finale's embrace felt honest because the collection earned it. The show doesn't try to make you cry. It remembers that tenderness is a function of care. There's a quiet humanism here, models presented as wearers, not avatars, craftsmanship offered as intimacy, not as intimidation. You leave with a sensation rather than a stunt shot. From tomorrow morning, imagine these pieces in a mirror that isn't 8 meters high. The cropped jacket straightens the back. The satin tee turns a weekday into a little ceremony. The loosened tweed lets a winter coat breathe. A rope of pearls redraws the sternum. A camellia at the hip becomes a private joke. This is how a house reclaims daily life, by making it feel orchestral without the orchestra. And from us, GWJ, we recognize the courage it takes to lower the volume at a brand famous for spectacle and to trust that close work will register through a screen. Here, it does. If this resonated, if you heard the low song of hand and fabric more than the shout of set and stunt, stay with us. Save this, share it with someone who loves process. Talk to us. We're GWJ Mag on Instagram, where we'll dive into the hems, the piping, the weave densities, the tiny choices that add up to a day debut with a spine. Chanel Under Planets chose gravity over fireworks. In doing so, it gave us something rarer than a moment, a beginning that wants to become a habit.